Hey guys, we're here at Future Fins in Huntington Beach, California, and I'm here with John Griffin, and we're gonna go into building a fin quiver. So we're gonna go into Y ride number. We've got different flex patterns for different feels, for different types of boards, different board shapes. This is gonna be really fun, so sit back and enjoy the show.
So those three variables that go into ride number are flex, rake, and foil. And you don't necessarily need to know how they all work, but like, just because we want people to understand how we did it, if they care, let's go through it right now.
Sure.
Cool?
Yeah, it's good.
So flex, we actually flex on a flex fixture, and we just put it in there, and we have a system of points that we measure on the fin, and we require a minimum stiffness in the base, and then we prescribe a certain range of flex out here in the tip. The more speed generating fins are going to be more flexible, and the more speed controlling fins are going to be stiffer. So if you feel this fin, it's really springy, very speed generating, versus the new Control Series, much stiffer. And that has a huge effect in how it's going to feel. The other variable we take a look at is rake. And we had to choose how we wanted to define rake. So the way we define rake is we take the fin, we draw a vertical line up the fin from the shaper's dot in the back, and then we take a look at the area. We take a look at the area behind the shaper's dot and the area in front of the shaper's dot, and we just get a ratio. So basically, the more area behind the shaper's dot, the more that fin's going to want to be held going straight. So think about it like tail feathers on a dart. Or the more tail feathers are on that dart, the more it's going to want to be held going straight. So the more rake back here, the more speed controlling, the more upright, the more speed generating, because the more pivoty you are off the bottom. And then the last one is just foil. And it's a hard thing to show on the camera, but you can look at the foil and you can just see that this one is flat-sided here, this one has a concave. And not only that, but the outside surfaces are different as well. It's an entire cross-section that's changed. Picture an airplane wing. There's different lift and drag associated with each foil, and we create high lift foils for speed generating, and we have lower lift for speed controlling. A good place to start is start with your speed, your balanced fin, and then try a speed generating fin. Try a black stick. And you'll feel that difference, and you'll know what that means. You'll feel that extra springiness, that extra liveliness, and then you can apply it to conditions and surfboards that might work. And then over here, if you're going on a surf trip, it might make sense to get a set of Tech Flex or a set of glass. So you could really do a lot of damage with just three different feels: your speed controlling, your balanced, and your speed generating. And it's easy to narrow it down in your size range. You just look at the catalog, pick your size, and then just look at three different feels.
So it sounds to me too like what you're talking about is you kind of got to do your homework as a consumer before you go buy a fin. So like I was at a pretty popular surf shop. I was in there looking at boards and stuff, and I saw this kid had done his homework on the surfboard, and he went and bought the board, and then he said, I don't have any fins. So then he asked the employee with a whole glass full of fins, and he says, what fins do you recommend for this board? The kid didn't ask him how much he weighed. He didn't ask him what his skill level was. He grabbed like a pair, let's just say he grabbed a Tech Flex, and he goes, these are really popular, you should get these. I mean, where does that leave the surfer and actually the board manufacturer? What if, you put the wrong fin in the wrong board?
Right.
I mean, that's a big deal, especially when you're talking about feeling and weight and all that stuff. So, I think I understand what you're saying. Like, okay, you've got three different, we're going to take a black stick if we're buying a small wave board, and then we've got middle ride number, where I think you're going, I don't know what to choose at this point. I know my weight, so I'm going to go grab a medium-sized fin and try it with that first. I think that's what you're saying, right? And then you got your Tech Flex is like, well, it's going to get a little bit bigger. Or let's say I surf Newport 54th Street, which is a pretty local spot here, where it's a steep wave and it gets really hollow. You might be riding this even if it's 3 to 4 feet and it's not that big, but you want that stability in the barrel or on your turns. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. And the key is that all these have a different feel. Certain people might actually like that feel in different conditions than others, right? So you see Rob Machado and Craig Anderson are typically riding these higher ride number fins in all conditions. They have a very effortless style. They don't push as hard on the rail as some guys when you compare them to guys that are just throwing buckets out the back and pushing all their weight into all their turns. And a guy that's doing that, like a Geordie, often you'll see them riding speed controlling fins in smaller ways just because they push so hard. So there's a certain feel that you can appreciate, and it makes sense kind of as a general rule that as the waves get smaller and you want more speed, speed generating fins, and then as the waves get bigger, more speed control.
Picking a fin for your weight, right? But let's say I'm 200 pounds. Would I ever choose a medium fin at 200 pounds? Because the guides from all the fin manufacturers go by weight. If you weigh this much and higher, you're on a large fin. Would I ever go to a medium fin?
Yeah, so the weight measurements in the areas are guidelines, and they usually land you on the right set. There are exceptions though, like you just said. So if your tail gets really wide, it might make sense to go to a bigger fin. That's why twin fins are so big. So, and the opposite point is if you're riding a step-up board or if you're riding a gun, that tail is so narrow and those rails are often so sharp that there's a lot of hold already inherently in the board. So you don't need to add really big fins on a gun. So, for example, I'm 190 pounds, and I typically ride Jordy, F8, AM2, that kind of size fin on most of my boards around here. They're just kind of wider tail boards. But on a trip to Punta del Lobo in Chile, it was big, and I was riding a step-up board, and I rode this actual fin right here, the EA Control Series, because I had plenty of board to hold, and I didn't need the fins to at that time.
So when we go to pull this down, it'll hit a force on here, and then it tells you the distance, and the computer will outlet that in a graph showing how much force or how much distance it moved under that amount of force.
So what he's doing is he's applying the force to the fin, and he's going up to a certain force that we already know, and he's waiting to capture that on the computer here. When he hits the force that he knows he's going for, he just locks it out, and the test is done, and we come in and we take a look at it in Excel, and we get our answer.
So when he's flex testing that fin like he just did, how do we equate that to surfing? Is it like the amount of weight on the surfer also by the speed that he's going that applies the pressure and torque on the turn?
Yeah, exactly. So all those forces that go into pushing against the surfboard fin, so how heavy is the surfer? How powerful are the waves? How steep are the waves? How good is the surfer at getting on rail and pushing his own body weight into those turns? Those all affect how much the fin's gonna flex. And we have to take the fins and we measure them, and stiffer fins are better for powerful surfers, powerful conditions. Softer fins that are more responsive are better for smaller waves, more lively. So this is how the ride number comes from how stiff the fins are versus how flexible and responsive they are.
So Vince, tell me, what do you think, or how do you think the ride numbers affected the surf industry at large?
I think ride numbers had a huge impact on surfing and the understanding of fins. I think as a designer, it really has allowed us to focus in on what's important when we go and we talk about designs with our team riders, and when we think about what kind of feel, how we want to change the feel, or we look at a board and we need to come up with a new design for the fin. We know what aspects of the fin mean most to the change in the feel. And then from a surfer standpoint, I've seen the light go off in countless amounts of surfers that I've talked to and explain why ride number came about and what it actually is, and right away I see the light go on. Right away I can tell they're thinking back on what their experience is with fins, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, I got to try this, or I got to try this. And so I think it's that variable that is more of a constant in the surfboard fin relationship, that a surfer who's really trying to get the most out of his equipment could just use as kind of a starting point.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review on building a fin quiver. We've got flex testing, we've got ride number. I mean, we pretty much covered the full gamut at a pretty high level for you guys to go in and be able to make a decision on what you're buying for a small wave, medium wave, what your home brake is, if whatever that looks like. We tried to touch the whole surface. John, thank you so much for having us out. It was cool to meet Vince and hang with you guys a little bit. I hope that it gets more technical and the viewers have questions, and maybe we can do another one.
Yeah, definitely. This has been a blast. Thanks for coming out, Noel.